Welcome to Oz Talk. It's great to see everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Tori is traveling today, but I've got you covered. And it's a very exciting time because shortly I'll be joined by the co-writers of Ultimate Oz Universe, the new graphic novel, hitting shelves, available to own on Tuesday, November 11th, 1 week from today. So we'll be catching up with them in just a bit. But we're in the middle of this Oz-splosion right now. What with Wicked coming out, Wicked for Good coming out on November 21st, we can taste it. It's so close, we can taste it. And in preparation for that great night, we have coming up this Thursday, November 6th on NBC, Wicked One Wonderful Night, which is a concert filmed at the historic Dolby Theater where the Oscar Awards take place, the Academy Awards, and we got together the entire cast of the movie films and of the movies, and they're singing all the greatest hits from Wicked. Tori and I attended. We were there, and it was such a historic event. I mean, getting to hear Cynthia Erivo sing Defying Gravity live, soaring above us, and Ariana Grande picking someone from the audience to perform Popular to was a really, really special moment. That, of course, is all airing this Thursday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC, and the next day will be available to stream on Peacock. I'm also seeing it might be on HBO Max in some countries, so that's really, really exciting. Don't miss that. Also leading up to Wicked, we have a promo of that I wanted to share for you as well for One Wonderful Night.
I have been changed.
This is Wicked One Wonderful Night.
November 6th, NBC invites you to a once-in-a-lifetime event.
We got a little overexcited during the hair toss.
With an exclusive debut.
2 brand new songs.
A sneak peek of them both.
Wicked One Wonderful Night. November 6th on NBC and Peacock.
Looks great. It's even better than it looks. So that is this Thursday. And then in preparation of Wicked for Good coming to theaters November 21st, Wicked Part 1 is making its network TV debut on NBC Wednesday, November 19th. That is just 2 days before Wicked for Good officially opens in theaters. Of course, those of you that are really excited like we are about Wicked for Good, there are ways to see it before then. There is the November 17th Amazon Prime early screening for ticket holders that people are Prime subscribers, Prime Video subscribers. There's also extra showings on the 19th and advances. There's a conglomerate where you can see Part 1 and For Good together, which is a really exciting opportunity. There's ScreenX, the Dolby, the 4D, all of the different versions we can see. I know Tiffany Sutton, Follow the Yellow Girl, will be checking those all out. I'm going to see as many as I can as well, all leading up to Wicked for Good opening only in theaters November 21st. Now, the merch is so overwhelming. You know, Tori and I are collectors. A lot of you are collectors too. Some of the cool things that I just picked up recently were from Box Lunch. I didn't realize how big these were when I saw them posted on social media and online, but these sun catchers, this is the Glinda. Here is the Alphaba, and just for reference, next to me, you can see how big these actually are, and I think they're really cool. So I wanted to share that for size purposes. And there's so much more. Leave comments. Let me know what you've been picking up and what you're most excited about getting. Who's getting the replica props from Noble Collection? Who's getting bags from Cambridge Satchel and from Lug? Have you been to Williams-Sonoma yet to get your spatulas? It's all too much, and it's all never enough. So enjoy the opening of Wicked for Good. Tori and I will be on shortly after that opens to discuss it all. And now we're going to talk about what's really probably the biggest thing happening to the world of Oz since L. Frank Baum wrote his books. You know, for many years, for decades, for generations, true Oz fans have lamented that we don't see adaptations of Baum's successive Wizard of Oz novels. His first novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, published in 1900 in Chicago, started it all. And all too often we're seeing that rehashed and readapted. Dorothy's journey is classic. It is universal. It crosses all cultures and generations. It breaks boundaries. It brings people together. The story renews itself because it is a journey that all of us share and go through and can identify with. However, Baum wrote 13 sequels to The Wizard of Oz. He wrote 14 Oz books. A lot of you know that. The guys we're going to be chatting with today certainly know that. But by and large, people think of The Wizard of Oz and then they know about Wicked, right? And The Wiz. So those of us who've always loved Baum's work knew that he did this great world building, you know, the likes of and beyond even Narnia, or what we see with, like, you know, Harry Potter and Star Wars and things like that. But it hasn't ever properly been adapted until now, thanks to AWA Studios and Ultimate Oz Universe. Take a look at this.
The Wizard of Oz is only the beginning, a sliver of an epic, untold universe. Welcome to a world of familiar faces, new adventures, and timeless wonder with Ultimate Oz Universe, The Lost Lands. A premium 144-page graphic novel bringing you the magical world of Oz like you've never seen it. Crafted for over 10 years by a team of Oz historians and brought to life by Eisner and Ringo award-winning creators. This is Oz, expanded beyond imagination. Dorothy's journey was just the start. Now, a new hero rises, Tip, racing against a growing darkness threatening all of Oz. Reunite with beloved faces like Scarecrow and Tin Woodman, and discover new legends like Jack Pumpkinhead and Queen Lurleen across a vast world ready to be discovered. Back Ultimate Oz Universe, The Lost Lands today. Thank you for being part of this extraordinary adventure.
And joining us now on Oz Talk Live is co-writer Cullen Bunn. He's a renowned comic book and graphic novel writer. Popular credits include The Sixth Gun, Harrow County, and Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, along with Larry King, who's co-writer and producer of Ultimate Oz Universe. He's got an impressive career as a musician, as in commercial jingles, film, and original music. He's the founder of the Larry King Orchestra and the lead vocalist of Soleil Moon and Michael Thompson Band. He's collabed with iconic brands like Coca-Cola and McDonald's, and superstars like Lionel Richie and Cheap Trick. He's managing partner at Shaggy Man Productions, more on that in a moment, where he continues to co-develop Ultimate Oz Universe. Let's welcome Larry Bunn and Larry King and Cullen Bunn to the show. Hey guys.
Hey there.
I like being Larry Bunn.
Yeah, I merged you for a moment.
Cullen King has a nice ring to it. I like it.
Right? Why not? Why not? We're all family. Oz is bringing us all together.
Yes.
So, how did you two hook up, and what's the process been like in co-adapting Baum's world for a graphic novel?
Go, Cullen. You could take it.
Well, you know, this was a project that was brought to me by Axel Alonso at AWA. I've worked with Axel for years and years at this point. And he brought the project to me, and then introduced me to Larry. And yeah, it's been for me at least, it's been a lot of fun, but it's also been sort of eye-opening in terms of everything that there is to the story of Oz.
Mm-hmm. And so Axel introduced the pair of you, and when you sat down to actually start adapting post The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, you're looking at the Marvelous Land of Oz, you're looking at Ozma of Oz and beyond in L. Frank Baum's canon. How do you contextualize it as a graphic novel and as a comic book? It's a different type of writing than novelization and then screenwriting, isn't it, Larry?
Well, when I came to Cullen, there was so much content, and he did an amazing job along with Axel and the team at AWA of kind of distilling the story and making it, matter. That the problem with some of Baum's writing is it's so jam packed with, characters and adventures that finding kind of that connective tissue, that connective thread, that's where the real challenge, comes. And I worked with 3 Oz historians, Julian McNulty, Jay Duncan, who just passed away, and Mike Bunyak, to, research the 14 Oz books to try to find that connective tissue. Some of it, we had to go even further into some of the Ruth Plumley Thompson books. So there's little smatterings of adventures and some cool characters that we pulled from books that Ruth Plumley Thompson had written. But the long and the short of it is, Cullen had to sit with me. I actually came to his house and we sat and had some wonderful Asian cuisine and, dove headfirst into all things Oz. So it was an amazing experience, and he's an incredible writer. So
The conversation, there was a lot of, Larry, this is too much. This is, we gotta focus.
Constantly. Yeah.
We've got to focus here because there's so much lore, and it's all in Larry's head. So that to the point that you mention a character and it just comes spilling out, all these stories that AWA is going to get to. It's just with comic books especially, a big part of it is you're working with an econ. You have to really keep the economy of the space in mind, what you're dealing with. So there were challenges to telling this story and making sure it was true to Oz in this format.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. Speaking of economy and space, there's such a great mix of genre here. You've got fantasy, you've got action, you've got adventure, you've got drama, you've got, personal relationships, right? So how do you juggle all of that? And do you worry about tone at all while you're writing, or just kind of go with it?
Well, you go ahead, Larry.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Mike Diodato is probably one of the most, I'm not even going to say probably, he's the most brilliant artist as far as comics are concerned. He's taken this and brought it to life in a way that I couldn't have even imagined. His character development, his landscape development, his he's basically drawing a movie, and the only way that he could do that is with Cullen's script. So, and the only way Cullen can write his script is if he understands the story structure. So this is meticulously researched canon, brought to you in a way that makes it understandable. I've seen other adaptations in some of the older graphic novels, and most of them are kind of riddled with too much dialogue. There's not enough pictures because they feel like they have to over explain the stories. And once again, what I've found is, the genius of Cullen, of his ability to take this incredibly long explanation and nail it down in one little bubble. And, as a songwriter, my job is to do the same thing. So I totally get it. And I understand what he was doing. But when I first read through the story in its entirety, I was able to jump into the book and make myself feel like I was actually in Oz. And to me, that is mission accomplished. We're currently working on book 2 as well, with Fred Van Lente. And it's just, it's better and better and better. And the plan of Axel Alonso and exactly what Cullen was saying, that AWA and my company have put together this plan on how to get these stories to the public, show amazing artwork, tell amazing stories, so that you as a human being could jump into those books. And it, it's totally happening. I love it. And thank you for showing the pages of the book while I was talking about it. That was
Well, the artwork is exquisite.
Yeah.
Mike Diodato Junior did a really beautiful job, and I love how taking characters that we have seen interpreted through illustration or on screen before in animation or live action, and coming up with a new take on them is really, really inspired. Especially seeing some of the things brought to life, story points that we haven't seen visualized before. Like, we've always had our imagination, but Mike did a really great job at making some of them really scary. There's a moment where Mombi, without giving too many spoilers, she's almost like Pennywise. She can transform into anything she wants to terrify you, so it's really brilliant, and could be nightmare inducing for those of us that may be inclined. I love it. I know, Cullen, you're a big horror fan, right? Did any of the Oz stories appeal to your horror tickle bone?
Oh yeah, I mean it's like you said earlier. There's so many sort of flavors of Oz, right? And there are elements of this story that will appeal to just so many different people for different reasons. Now, on this program, it may be sacrilegious for me to say this, but while I'm a fan, I was always a fan of Oz, and I read the books when I was younger. I'm not a diehard Wizard of Oz fan, for instance. I like fantasy, but when I think about Oz, my favorite Oz movie was Return to Oz, and that's because it was so much darker and so much scarier. And I just like those dark fantasy elements. The good news for me as a horror writer is there's so much of it in the story of Oz in general. But what was cool about it is those dark moments, like Mombi, and Mike drawing Mombi the way he does is something special. Just in general, Mike Diodato has been working he's a seasoned veteran in comics. He's done some of the best comics that have ever been published, and I will go on record, this is the best work he's ever done. This is hands down his best work, because he's excited about it. I think because of what you said earlier, where there's so many different genres, there's so many different things he gets to play with in terms of being creative. So all of that is just super exciting. It was super cool to see. But the reason those scary moments work is because there's so many other, it's sort of peaks and valleys, and you get to go in different directions, and then those scary moments kind of come flying at you. And what's great about it is it's all so true to the source material.
Yeah.
I also love how you get the characters so right. There's such an essence to the different characters, whether it's Wugglebug. Hungry Tiger is so fantastic in Ultimate Oz Universe Volume 1, The Lost Lands. And even like Jack Pumpkinhead and his dialect. Did you write it at first and then go back, and were you inspired in any way by the dialects that Baum himself used in making characters, in writing your characters?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the voices of the characters were very important, especially with this book. I felt like it all started with Tip and getting the voice of Tip right. That was super important. But then, from that, of course, and you just named two of my favorite characters in the book is Hungry Tiger and Jack are two of my favorite characters in the book. And it's, I went back to the books, I read those, and then any reader is going to read those characters with a voice in their head too. So I kind of channeled that voice in my head back into the script.
There was very little, very few changes that I had to make. Once Cullen had kind of grasped, and you're talking about the voices of the characters, once he had grasped, how the character would be portrayed, what kind of acting would come out of these characters. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't pushed. Cullen's got this thing where, because I've worked with other writers in the past, he's got this thing where he says everything that you need to say in as few words as possible. And that's a challenge. That's a huge challenge. As we're talking about it, we're all kind of sitting and stumbling and over explaining because we want to make sure that the audience is clear on how we're expressing ourselves. But to be able to nail that down in just a few words and capture the essence of the character and push the story along so that that what you're looking at really makes sense. So the first time I read through the book, I didn't read any of it. I looked at all the pictures because I wanted to focus on what was going on. And the visuals were so iconic and so amazing. They really just stayed in my head, so that when I went back and read the book, it all just, it made sense without reading it. And then reading it was, completely and utterly, the affirmation was there. And it's, when you watched Wizard of Oz as a kid, there was kind of an ebb and flow within that movie that had a kind of a childish, even though, I mean, some of the scenes with the Wicked Witch of the West scared the hell out of me. But, it still had an ebb and flow that was kind of innocent and childish. And I'm not so sure that flies in today's, world of media. And I think that Cullen and Mike have done an amazing job of updating these stories to, really hit home for our society today. And especially in what's going on in the world, it's very, very much needed right now. So.
I love, and thank you for sending me the advance review copy. I read it, and it's a sizable graphic novel. It's, I think, 144 pages. Yeah. It is a great read. There's amazing amount of story, action, and adventure packed in here, character development, land and world building. But I'll tell you, I read it so fast. I felt like 2 seconds, and I just wanted more. I'm so glad it's volume 1. I'm glad to hear you're working on more. It is one of the most enjoyable reads, not only because did you get the story right, but you're weaving the story in a way that I feel is really original, while going through the second Baum book and staying true to the arc of that adventure and Tip's journey. We're still visiting Dorothy back in Kansas, and we're getting the kind of parallel of not forgetting about our heroine from book 1 and taking for granted you didn't have to start by telling Dorothy's journey. You kind of, we know that's established. Everybody knows that. So starting here with this relatively new story to a lot of people and moving forward, but then visiting Dorothy back, I think was a really brilliant and creative way to make this almost episodic and kind of serialize it in a way. But how soon are we going to see a volume 2?
I just got the lettered version of the first half of the book, so we're working diligently, and it's pretty amazing. All those characters that you're dying to see, they're coming. Mm-hmm. They are all coming. We've got the most evil of all evil, and the greatest of all greats, and Dorothy comes back. I mean, there's when you end book 1, you're right, you really want to see book 2 and then book 3, but they all end on cliffhangers, And
I think,
go ahead.
I think something that we don't want to overlook too is Axel Alonso's involvement in this, because he was so ingrained in the Marvel universe for so long, and developing those stories and developing that world and all the connective tissue between those different, the events and the different stories. Now he's putting that energy, that same kind of energy and focus, into this and developing it in a very similar way. And that's why you get some of these, that's why there are some of those cool moments where you're glimpsing hints of stories to come. And that's all, a big, a big tip of the hat to Axel for being the guide of that kind of storytelling too.
How closely are you going to be sticking to chronology of Baum's novels?
His chronology kind of jumps all over. So it's not really, and this I think has been the main problem with a lot of people trying to tackle this, task, is that, book one doesn't necessarily flow into book two, then doesn't, I mean, there's not an ebb and flow in his stories. He kind of jumps all over the place. So when I created kind of the map, as you guys could see, that's the map of Oz behind me, which Ryan, I know you have one.
I love it. Thank you so much. You can't really create a chronology without understanding, the geography of Oz and how it works. When you see most of the stories, you're really focused on Emerald City and Munchkin Country, and Wicked does a nice job of kind of expanding to different places. But everything's color coded, everything's surrounded by a deadly desert. There's all that exterior in the outer lands of Oz, where there's a gazillion adventures that are happening out there, and how they associate to inner Oz is super important. We're building up kind of that relationship with Ev, which is a very important place for Emerald City to have an alliance with. And you don't really understand that the terms that are existing within the books, because they were children's books and they were just some adventures. But there is a connectivity between, Evna and Princess Langwidere, and she's the one with all the heads that they made into Mombi, I believe, in Return to Oz. Yeah, which we're kind of correcting a lot of that stuff. There's people that have grown up, these amazing authors and creators, and there's something that's referenced from the books in everyday life, or there's a quote or a movie that has taken a scene, and once you start delving into the other books, you're like, oh my God, that's blah 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 from book 26. And you see it in everyday life. You see the people that have grown up with these books, that have read these books, and they start creating their own. I mean, it has sparked more imagination and more creativity than you could possibly imagine. And we're kind of setting that scene straight. I know I didn't really answer your question about the chronology. Well, that's okay, because I also am curious about, since you're working with Axel, who has a Marvel background and is, where the multiverse was created and exploded. How much of a multiverse will we see within the Ultimate Oz universe? Are you at some point thinking even about toying with tapping into Dorothy Must Die, Wicked? Would Elphaba end up meeting, someone from, Dorothy from a different path at some point?
That's an interesting question. You're the first one to ask that question, oddly enough. So I think I'd rather explore, Tatiti Hoochoo, and the other side of the world before I start tying other stories into our story. There's a magic portal that is in subterranean Ev, where you can go to different places. The Wicked Witches, they've got the abilities to create portals. So I think there's so much that could be explored with what's existing in the canon, that, after the 250th book that we create, then we could start tying it.
Sure.
The other stories.
You see what happened just then with
What's
Larry?
that?
You asked him a simple question. He starts talking about magic portals and the different Wicked Witches,
right,
and all these crazy names start pouring out of his mouth.
Right.
Well, I know we have to be sensitive and obviously not to be naive to the world that we live in with trademarks and IP and the rest of it, so I know it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but there is a potential, depending upon what the future of Ultimate Oz universe has and in different media, for things like that to happen. We saw a lot of that with Once Upon a Time, when that ABC TV series launched and they were almost exclusively using Disney characters, but then eventually did tap into some, I think, publicly domain characters, but go into some other trademark ventures from other fantasy and fairy tale as well. So it's just exciting that obviously just that you guys have the opportunity, just that that it's there in case you ever wanted to, is almost mind-boggling, the amount. But I think that's what makes the brand of Ultimate Oz universe the ultimate, is because it really is, sorry, Wicked fans, unlimited to your creative process,
Well, and the glory of Wicked is that it's fantastic, fabulous, huge fan, but it's set up as a prequel.
Right.
And then there's Wizard of Oz, and we were very meticulous to make sure that we were the future. When I started working on this over 12 years ago, so this hasn't been something that we, in the immortal words of Cullen Bunn, cobbled together. We were, thinking about when this is going to come out, when it's going to be in the public domain, on the legal side of things,
sure,
how we could take these stories and, be progressive and push forward.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a crazy, kind of, Cullen gives me crap about going on these tangents, and everyone kicks me under the table, and it's fun with Ryan because he actually knows what the hell I'm talking about. And a lot of people that are watching the show know what I'm talking about. So for everybody out there who knows what I'm talking about, there's, and I reference this a lot. There's the story of Nick Chopper and how he became the Tin Woodman. There's like an upgrade in L. Frank Baum's canon where he gets upgraded to nickel because of the rusting. And it happens when he becomes the emperor of Winky Country. So these are kind of like facts that people don't necessarily know that I'm sharing right now that are in our books. Cullen's laughing at me. And what Mike Diodato chose to do for the upgrade of Tin Woodman is spectacular.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's crazy how he goes from the original Tin Woodman. And then in the book, we start him as the original concept. And then, Kuklip, who created him in the first place, he goes crazy, and it's updated. It's modern.
Yeah, when I got to that point in the book here, and between the visuals and reading what you're reading, I was like, am I seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah,
it's wild and it's exciting and it's cool and clever. And so I love that you really are, in adapting to graphic novel, you're delivering so much because you have the opportunity to do such delightful visuals and such enchanting storytelling and taking it to a new level that only services the source material. I don't think anyone that's a purist is going to feel disappointed or offended. I think it's really exciting. Even things like here's what I've been dying to ask you about, because I'm wondering, in your collaboration, did you weigh in? Did Mike Diodato, did he consult with you at all in developing any of the visuals once he got your words? Like suddenly Jellia Jam is a lovely verdant shade and shades of alphaba within her. And I'm wondering why it's not explained, but is that something that you guys know, or was that a discussion?
That was in the book. She's green. Jellia Jam, the description of Jellia Jam in his book, she's the real green. The Wicked Witch of the West isn't.
She's the green girl.
She's the green girl. Yeah.
References too. I was wondering with other things, if I'm reading into with when we see, Mombi later in the novel in a position using magic that was very reminiscent of a scene later in the animated Journey Back to Oz. Is that an Easter egg and a nod to that, or was that just a coincidence?
Once again, we're trying to, L. Frank Baum had these amazing ideas and concepts, and we're bringing some of the things that they didn't necessarily bring because Hollywood had changed, kind of what people had thought of the characters. They created their own versions of the characters. There are some older illustrations. A lot of them are in black and white, and it kind of gives you a guide. And it's nice to research what everybody else has kind of put together. But this is Mike and Cullen's world, man. They created. I just came to them with some facts. So every once in a while, they'd go kind of off the rails, and I'd say, "Hey, look, that's cool, but let's put that into book 4." There's nothing that they've done that isn't acceptable. It's all brilliant. It's just they want to hit it right away, and I'm like, let's get there, eventually. So
speaking of brilliant, something that I think is really exciting that I haven't experienced yet, I don't think I've had access to it, but your marketing director, you have an incredible team at Ultimate Oz Universe and AWA, and Noel, who is here but not on screen right now, giving you a shout out. Thank you for all your good work. But he had mentioned that there are going to be QR codes at certain points throughout the book where you can link to other videos and learn more about the lands of Oz. Is that true?
Yeah, books do a great job of educating and entertaining at the same time. So, in this kind of era of really needing to show people what a scene is and bring it to life, you could click on the QR code, and they've created some nice video of kind of, we have like a QR code of the rolling lands, and a lot of people don't understand what the rolling lands are. And it's, kind of a wobbling conveyor belt that, brings meals to Yoop Castle. So you click on the QR code, and you'll be able to see what that scene looks like, and when it comes to life, and we have that all over the book. I think there's 12 different QR codes.
Wow, that's really, really cool. Can't wait to check all those out.
We also have a song. Every book has a song too.
Really? I know these songs you've written?
Yeah.
Because I know that, isn't that how you originally, when we last spoke a few months ago on Oz Talk, you mentioned that you were first brought into the world of Oz through songwriting, right? Shaggy Man Productions reached out to you because they wanted you to develop some music.
Well, Educharacters was the first company that started this, and they started it as an educational program. And the guy who was doing all their music had passed away. So they called me and said, "Hey, can you write some children's music for our educational portion?" And then later on, they were like, "Look, we want to do a whole musical." And I said, "Great, I want to own it."
Yeah.
So I wrote a full-blown musical, and then brought on Kevin McCullum. He partnered with us, and he's the one who found AWA. So Kevin McCullum is an amazing, Broadway producer. He did the adaptation with Steven Spielberg of West Side Story, Six, Avenue Q. We've got this team of crazy, talented people that, Oz brings everybody together in a very interesting way. You could be this person over here and get this person over here, and everybody's intrigued in the stories. They're just amazing stories.
Cullen, last time Larry was on Oz Talk, we spoke to him about, and I'm curious what your answer would be in potentially adapting Ultimate Oz Universe, the graphic novel, available Tuesday, November 11th. It's available at ultimateozuniverse.com and on amazon.com. The must-have graphic novel that's kicking off a new world of Oz. But in adapting it potentially to stage, to screen, its animation, as live action, or whatever it might be, what would you dream it up as?
Well, I mean, it's one of those projects that I probably when I talk about it, I think in terms of a super story, in that I think there's more, and this is where I probably start going off the deep end when I've been talking to Larry, because I think there's so much more than the graphic novel that can be done. And I know that Larry has big plans on that front anyway, but I can see movies, obviously, TV shows. I could see this, setting the stage for multiple shows and it will set the stage for more comics. But there's so much going on in the world. There's so many characters to follow. Movies, shows. To me, board games and role-playing games are near and dear to me too, and I see so much potential on that front. I just think it goes in so many different directions for expanding beyond the comic.
Absolutely. Larry, any new ideas?
Well, I mean, we're kind of in conversations with a few people that I can't talk about it, but
Sure you can. This is exactly where you should talk about it.
I'll get that.
All
But Cullen's absolutely correct. Movies, streaming, children's adaptations, educational programs, huge gaming. So
Great.
there's things that are absolutely in the thought process, and Ryan, you know this as well as I do, that the world is our oyster with Oz. There's so much that the whole purpose of what L. Frank Baum did was to spark imagination. And, as a grown man, you can't grow up. It keeps you youthful. It just, that whole image of just things kind of, coming into the space and coming into your head happens. I mean, yeah, look at the presentation of this. I mean, Mombi's broom is amazing. She's got a eyeball that, when the broom is around and she's not around, instead of looking through her cauldron to see what's going on, she can just open up that eyeball of the broom and see what's going on without her being there. So she's got, a dozen ways to spy, So it's, yeah, all of it is there. All of it is possible. And, we're currently working on all of it. So
I'm also curious about the Oz historians that you've worked with. I feel like the Oz community is relatively small, and everybody at some point is a member of the International Wizard of Oz Club, has been to a convention, or being published in the Bum Bugle. These are people that we hadn't heard of before. Tori and I were discussing, what was their trajectory? Were they on staff and assigned to do research, or are these like Tori and I, historians that come by it through fandom first and a labor of love for Oz?
Well, Julia McNulty is really our main Oz historian. She, everyone says, Larry knows more about Oz. He'll forget more about Oz than we'll ever know. I'm a small, I know a small bit of information. She's got books and books and books, and she's put down over 1,000 characters she's profiled, over 110 lands she's profiled. I regularly, when we were creating the stories, would call her at 2:00 in the morning to ask her a question, if something's possible, or if this character still existed, or we want this character to kind of fall off. Do they come back at some point, and how do they come back? And can we use this person over here? And is that in the public domain? Because, she's done all 40 books, so really couldn't do any of this without Julia McNulty. And we had Mike Bunyak, who had worked with me on putting kind of the adventures together that we wanted to outline and getting the back to the chronology. He helped me with kind of like, taking this and putting the yarn over to here, saying, oh yeah, we can have him here. We could do this. It kind of like a detective board, And Jay Duncan, this was his brainchild when he first, he's the one who first came up with this concept. He was the one who owned Edu-Characters, and he had done the whole Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer scenario. But, these guys had been working on this, since 2006. So, yeah, I mean, they're amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Lastly, I just, before we wrap, because you guys, I could talk to you forever, but I know you have lives outside of Oz Talk. So I just wanted to...
I don't. Oz is my life.
Well, good. Well, we can get on after. But I'm curious what you view as, let's talk about, Volume 1, The Lost Lands, but also moving forward just a little bit in terms of theme. What do you feel like the messages are, or a message or a theme, maybe something that is socially relevant in the story that is still socially relevant today? I mean, I could pick out a few things, but I'm curious to hear from each of you what you think are, because I feel like in storytelling, those are the points that really touch people and bring them back and connect to them the most.
Cullen, you go.
Yeah, so this story is not one without tribulations and trials. There's a lot of and going forward, what I, you know, where I know this story's going, there's a lot of danger and dismay that these characters are facing. And yet it's one of the most hopeful stories around. And for me, a big part of Oz, and you see it in this first book, and you see it going forward. It's all about finding your friends, finding your ride or dies, the people you can count on, because that's what these characters are doing as they're facing these in many cases, these life-changing events. They're relying on each other and knowing that that's what's going to get you through.
Mm-hmm. Amen. So true. We can all identify with that.
Yeah, finding family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because your family isn't necessarily, your birth family. I actually, somebody had asked me to do for the video that they're creating of the song that is associated to the book. They actually asked me to write kind of a script out. So there's an epilogue that I put at the bottom of this that I'm going to read to you because it describes it personally. Oz is for dreamers and seekers of truth. Through love and self-sacrifice, the lessons we learn along the way will reveal the magic within us.
I love that. That's exquisite. Well, and with that, thank you so much, the pair of you. I mean, it's really, really outstanding work here with the Ultimate Oz Universe. I really encourage everyone to head over to ultimateozuniverse.com to learn more about the project and all the things to come. You can pre-order there. Ultimate Oz Universe Volume 1, The Lost Lands, will be available starting a week from today, Tuesday, November 11th. You can get it through ultimateozuniverse.com, at amazon.com. And it's not just the graphic novel, because don't forget that within the graphic novel, you've got all those QR codes that will take you to added value and special features and more information, videos about the lands, and a song for each chapter, right? That we're getting, written by Larry King here, our very own Ultimate Oz historian here from the Ultimate Oz Universe. So I'm very excited for all of those things. And once you do read this book, as I have, and I think that it's a really exciting thing. We're going to want to talk about it. We're going to want to have you guys back on again. We're going to want to have some other Oz fans on. Leave your reviews on Amazon.com. Follow Ultimate Oz Universe on social media. They are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Leave your comments. They're going to want your feedback, because just like L. Frank Baum, when he was getting letters from all of his readers, everyone here, as you can see at Ultimate Oz Universe, is a real team. This is a labor of love and a passion, like everyone that worked on the Wicked movie and how they are and how interactive they've been with their fans. I see you guys doing that too. So please follow. It's at Ultimate Oz Universe across all social media, and give them your feedback. Let them know how much you think, what you'd like to see in future issues, because it's all here for us to enjoy. Larry and Cullen, thank you so much for joining me today. And until next time, to Oz.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.